You're watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV from Toronto, Ontario. This is Samia Sayed. Welcome to the show. Coming up very shortly is an interview with a member from the Imam Mahdi Islamic Center to comment on some of the recent Islamophobic attacks on the mosque. But first, let's take a look at some headlines. Advocates demand changes to prison chaplaincy system. Winnipeg Grand Mosque open house Sunday. Vigil for Soleiman Fakiri's 6th death anniversary. Turkey's airstrike on YPG threat to U.S. personnel, says Pentagon. And now the details. This week, the National Council of Canadian Muslims, the Islamic Family and Social Services Association, and former and present prison chaplains met with federal officials to discuss the inadequate prison chaplaincy system. The current model was introduced in 2013 under the conservative Harper government. It was decided a single company would replace multiple faith organizations to contract prison chaplains for federal prisons. The system is still followed to date and deprives minority faith groups of access to spiritual services. The advocacy groups demanded that Correctional Services Canada return to the older model to cater to the faith-based needs of all inmates. Winnipeg's Grand Mosque will open its doors to the public Sunday at the first post-pandemic annual open house. The Grand Mosque is a community hub that not only provides a place of worship, but also hosts meetings, organizes different programs, and runs a food bank. Idris Al-Bakri, secretary of the Manitoba Islamic Association, says the event will provide neighbors an opportunity to come together and understand Islamic teachings and culture better. Al-Bakri says the people can also learn about the diversity of the Muslim community in the region that comprises nearly 80 nationalities. The event will feature presentations and tours along with refreshments. A vigil will be held on December 17th at Dundas Square, Toronto for Suleiman Fakiri. Fakiri was a 30-year-old mentally ill Muslim man who died in an Ontario jail due to the manhandling of security guards. The vigil will mark the 6th death anniversary of Fakiri. The Fakiri family has been seeking criminal charges against the prison guards who pepper sprayed, shackled, and held the deceased's face down before he passed away. In August, a media source reported that Ontario Provincial Police will not lay criminal charges against the guards involved in Fakiri's death, despite the province's chief forensic pathologist determining that the guards' actions led to his death. The Turkish government has launched an air attack in northern Syria against the Kurdish-led YPG, which Turkey blames for the recent Istanbul attacks. The Pentagon says the attacks are threatening the safety of United States military personnel, and the escalating situation is jeopardizing years of progress against ISIS fighters. The comments are the strongest condemnation by the U.S. of its NATO ally Turkey. The Pentagon spokesman says that although the U.S. recognizes Turkey's security concerns, the attacks are also putting the custody of more than 10,000 ISIS detainees at risk. The U.S. has nearly 900 soldiers, mainly in northeast Syria, who work with the YPG to fight against ISIS. That's it for the news. Now, just last month, the Imam Mahdi Islamic Center in Toronto faced a wave of vandalism attacks and threats of bombing and assaults. This is because of false connections drawn between the Toronto Mosque and the government of Iran. And the situation left many Muslims feeling unsafe and worried. Joining us now to tell us more is Sister Nayure Akbarzadeh, a member of the Imam Mahdi Islamic Center. Welcome, Sister Nayure, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sister Nayure, I want to hear about the experiences of the mosque specifically, but for those of us who are not following the developments in Iran, can you summarize just what context these threats on the mosque came about?
Yes, actually, it has been more than, I would say, 3 months that protests and riots on the street in different provinces in Iran is going on. And following these events, some people are killed and some people are just, present. And a lot of Iranians living across globe have been protested, which would be, let's say, anti-government and anti-regime in Iran. And considering the fact that Iranian regime now represents itself as Islamic Republic. So then basically a lot of things has been happening among people around the globe going against Islam and Muslims. And what has been happening in Toronto for our mosque is one example.
And what are some of those threats or attacks that the mosque has come across?
It all started with just, writing graffiti on the wall of the mosque, vandalizing the mosque. The graffiti specifically was saying death to priests. Actually, the word that they put, it was ahund, which means Islamic priest. Death to Khamenei, death to Islam, and also besides there were people showing up in front of mosque consistently, just harassing people who would enter or exit the mosque.
Mm-hmm. And why was it this particular mosque that was targeted?
Based on their just belief is that this mosque is affiliated with the government of Iran, which is not true. And in different occasions, we have indicated all our history and background and our just financial status, how this whole mosque has been run. But they believe such a mosque in such an expensive location cannot be doing on its own if they are not related to the government of Iran.
Mm-hmm. So just to be clear then, there is no connection between the Iranian government and the mosque?
None whatsoever. We have zero affiliation with any government, not only Iranian government, with no government. It is all community-based run mosque. And even the history of how this mosque has been purchased is all over Instagram and social media. And also the mosque's door is open to anyone who wants to find out about the history of this mosque.
Mm-hmm. So it's very much a community-based initiative, as our mosques. Sister Nayuri, we have some of the facts of the case, the bomb threats or the attacks, but can you share some of those personal accounts of just how the community members were feeling when they heard about these attacks on the mosque?
Honestly, and among our community, and as far as I have been talking to people, they have find it dehumanizing what our oppressors are doing, because when they just show up in front of the mosque calling people animals, just calling the people who attend the mosque animals, and they call mosque a barn, and they have no shame just putting it on Instagram, calling it a barn, right? Our people in our community have found it dehumanizing. And this is not one isolated event happening throughout history. Like any minority groups have been dehumanized by their oppressors. And look at the Jewish community back in the days. They were called rats, or again, like I mentioned, when you are a minority in a society, one of the tactics and strategies that oppressors have been using was dehumanizing people. And that's what's happening to us now.
Mm-hmm. So it goes further than just being scared or worried. It's actually working to dehumanize the Muslims of that mosque.
Yes, I mean, the hate speech going on, how they have been just, talking to the people who attend the mosque, a while ago, just putting the flag on the floor, for asking people to just walk all over it, and just swearing and bullying people entering and exiting the mosque has been going on. And not, at the beginning, they had started with going to the mosque every Sunday, but now even on Friday, which is the mosque's regular program going on, they have the Juma prayer. Muslims know about that, but and even Fridays they have been showing up there, assaulting people who would attend the mosque.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned before that the protests in Iran were happening for the past 3 months, but now as you're describing what just happened in the mosque, has the attacks been going on for longer or just in the last few months?
No, it has been for the last few months. We know that some people in our community are really, really against Islam, and even when we were having some programs during Muharram, they would just show up and start just shouting at people. But this one has specifically something to do with what's going on in Iran.
Okay. Now, these incidents were reported to the police for quite a while ago now, but what has happened since then? Has any motion come out of it?
It is unfortunate for me to say no serious action has been taken, because what we have been told by police is that they have, their freedom of speech, and as long as they do not attack anybody, we can't do anything about it. They just show up there and express their feelings. Even with CBC, they were saying that these people show up in front of the mosque because they have their anger against Iranian regime, and they see that this mosque has affiliation with Iranian regime, which is not true. One thing which is really, really unfortunate is that these kind of Islamophobic actions has been going on. It has been happening all over the world. Christchurch church event is one example. What happened in Quebec is another example. I just want to compare what happened in Quebec with what's happening here. I know they don't have the same magnitude, but then look at the mosque in Quebec. It all started with harassment, Islamophobia, and it just ended up to mass murder. This is something that we really, really want to prevent from happening. Right now, people showing up to our mosque do not feel safe and secure, and this is not what Canada should be all about.
Mm-hmm. And I see how that is a worrying prospect right there. Now, very quickly, because we don't have enough time, you said that there needs to be better systemic protections from the government. What protections specifically are you looking for?
I know that there has been some discussions going on, and I know that Muslim communities, after what happened in London, they have been talking about London Act and protecting worship place. At least it can be safe zone for worshipers showing up there. That's one step. It's a very big step, and it can help a lot of worship places, specifically Islamic mosques and Islamic worship places, which are under attack, consistent attack now.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Sister Nayuri. We got a great example of what exactly is happening to the mosques and how truly worrying and frightening it is for the people who are there, but also Muslims in the community widely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for having me. And we keep just, praying for the best to happen.
Ameen.
Thank you.
You are watching Canadian Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. That's it from our Toronto studios tonight. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more Canadian Muslim content. Stay safe, and until next time.